My dad gave me a framed blueprint and said, maybe one day you'll draw something real. Then he gave my company to my brother for getting engaged to a Whitmore. 2 years later, I bought them out. The new sign says, earned. They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from family. I learned that truth on a Thursday morning, over stale coffee in a room full of fake smiles. My name is Noah Sanders. I'm 27 years old. I live in Eugene, Oregon, and for the last 11 years, I've been the operational engine behind my family's eco-housing design firm. You've probably seen our name on city banners or green building awards. Sanders Eco Living. What you don't see are the late nights I spend in the back office, balancing budgets, chasing suppliers, debugging building plans that were more fantasy than feasible, all while my dad played visionary and my older brother, Liam, played ghost. Liam, 2 years older, 0 years wiser. He flitted in and out of the company like it was a side hustle, dropping in with vague ideas and disappearing before the follow-up email. He never stayed long enough to get his hands dirty, but he always found a way to show up for the photo ops. His latest claim to fame? Getting engaged to Claire Whitmore, the daughter of Richard Whitmore, the same Richard Whitmore who owns half of Portland's skyline. So when Dad called a family meeting in the conference room, I didn't think much of it. Maybe another marketing stunt. Maybe a passive-aggressive complaint about how I wasn't dressing sharp enough for client meetings. I didn't expect this. Dad stood at the head of the table, beaming like he'd just won the lottery. Liam lounged beside him, smirking. I've made a decision, Dad said, his tone dramatic like he was announcing the next CEO of a Fortune 500. Effective immediately, I'm handing the reins of the company over to Liam. Silence. I blinked, thought maybe I'd misheard. Then I looked around the room, Mom nodding, our family lawyer looking awkward, Liam biting back a grin. Wait, I said, slowly. You're serious? Dad shrugged like it was obvious. Liam has connections, vision. His future ties with the Whitmore family. They're going to open doors this firm could never reach on its own. It's the next phase. I swallowed, trying to keep my voice steady. I built the last phase. He laughed, not kindly, and you'll always have that. Then he reached under the table and pulled out a wrapped frame. A token, he added, handing it to me. I unwrapped it. A faded, old blueprint, one of my first drafts, from when I was 16, preserved behind glass. One day, he said with a smirk, maybe you'll draw up something real. The room erupted into polite laughter. Even Mom chuckled, like this was some charming father-son bonding moment. I didn't laugh. I couldn't. My hands gripped the frame tighter than I meant to. My ears burned. I looked at Liam. He gave me a wink, like we were in on some private joke. We weren't. Without a word, I stood up, tucked the frame under my arm, and walked out. Behind me, I heard Dad say, he'll come around. I didn't look back. I didn't speak. But something inside me snapped that day. Not cleanly. Not like a bone. More like steel under pressure, slowly warping, ready to break. I didn't even pack that night. Just grabbed a duffel bag and walked out of the house I grew up in like it was a stranger's. No goodbye. No explanation. I figured they wouldn't notice until Monday or ever. The next morning, I stood in line at a downtown bank, finalizing a withdrawal I'd been too scared to make for years. All my savings. Everything I'd set aside from late-night freelancing and underpaid contracting while keeping Dad's dream afloat. I transferred it all into a new account under my name only. No more co-signed anything. Then I found a studio apartment on the edge of Springfield. Small, drafty, and smelled faintly like cat pee, but it was mine. No family photos on the walls. No trace of Sanders Eco Living. Just a folding table, a mattress, and stacks of sketchbooks. That first week, I barely left the place. I sketched until my hands cramped. Floor plans, elevations, energy simulations. Not for clients, not for approval, just raw, obsessive design. I wasn't sure what I was doing yet. I just knew I wasn't doing it for them. I didn't check my phone for 3 days. When I finally did, I had 2 messages. Dad, don't be dramatic. You'll thank me someday. Liam, let me know when you're done sulking. I could use help cleaning up some of these files, LOL. I deleted them both. I cut them out completely after that. Changed my number. Locked down all access to the company drives I'd quietly kept on the cloud. They wouldn't need my templates anymore. Liam could hire a consultant or flail. Either worked. Then I registered my business. Leaf Design. The name felt small at first, like it didn't deserve a logo or a brand deck, but it was mine, and it wasn't built on old money or name recognition. It was built on anger and ambition, the best kind of fuel when you're starting with nothing. I started taking odd jobs. A tiny greenhouse conversion, a shipping container turned microhome. I said yes to everything, every weird Craigslist gig, every underfunded nonprofit project. I met contractors who couldn't pay on time but fed me lunch. I worked with a retired architect named Friend who taught me how to cold pitch city boards. I sketched in coffee shops, worked late in libraries, and slowly, piece by piece, I built something. Not flashy, not Instagram-worthy, but real, tangible, designed for people who needed it, not people trying to impress their in-laws. Meanwhile, Sanders Eco-Living posted headshots and glossy renderings of Liam shaking hands with officials he couldn't name without Googling. Dad gave a TEDx talk about inherited wisdom. I watched 5 seconds of it and slammed my laptop shut. They had their legacy. I was building mine. I didn't know where Tin Leaf was headed yet, but for the first time, I didn't feel like I was someone else's shadow. I was finally standing in my own light. 2 years later, Tin Leaf wasn't just surviving, it was getting noticed. We weren't fancy. No billboards. No ads on the side of buses. Just word of mouth, a bare-bones website, and a growing reputation in places most architects ignored: low-income neighborhoods, forgotten corners of small towns, transitional housing projects that bigger firms didn't think were worth it. But people talked. Community leaders told their friends. A retired schoolteacher emailed a city planner. A librarian passed along my business card to someone at a zoning meeting. And little by little, Tin Leaf turned into something real. The project that changed everything was called Juniper Crossing. 26 eco-efficient units built into an abandoned lot behind a strip mall. Solar roofing, modular walls, rain harvesting systems, all on a laughably small budget. It shouldn't have worked, but we made it work. My team by then was small but solid. Fran handled zoning headaches and made city inspectors cry in a good way. Miguel was our materials guy, a genius with salvaged wood and offbeat insulation hacks. Priya, fresh out of grad school, brought in wild, brilliant energy that reminded me of who I used to be before bitterness hardened my edges. We didn't do handshakes in glass towers. We sat on milk crates and drank gas station coffee while sketching site plans. And somehow, that became our strength. Then came the email from the city. Request for proposal, East Bank Commons redevelopment. Big project, big exposure. And I knew Liam's firm would be gunning for it. They were already advertising mock-ups like the deal was sealed. Probably a dad lobbying behind the scenes, whispering about legacy. But when we got the contract, I didn't believe it at first. I read the email 3 times, forwarded it to Fran just to be sure. Then I sat in my chair, staring at the wall, heart pounding like I'd just outrun a fire. We beat them, not with politics, not with pedigree, but with ideas, with real solutions. The press release we sent out was short, clean, and sharp. At the bottom, I added a line that no one else noticed except Liam. Because great design is earned, not inherited. 2 weeks later, I heard clients were leaving his firm, not all at once, but in a steady trickle: smaller developers, then nonprofits, then even one of their city contracts. People were finally asking the question Dad never did. What has Liam actually built? I didn't gloat, didn't post anything smug, didn't send Dad a clip from the press conference. But I did frame the first city check we got. I hung it beside that old blueprint he gave me, the one he laughed at when he handed it to me like a joke. Now, it's a reminder. I don't need their validation. I've got proof, on paper, in steel, in the ground. I was sketching out a proposal for a mixed-use shelter downtown when I heard the knock. It wasn't the polite kind. It was 2 quick thumps, like whoever was out there wasn't sure they should be. I opened the door and saw Liam. He looked wrong, not in a dramatic way, not falling apart or homeless, just wrong. Like someone had stripped away the polish and left a guy who didn't know how to stand without it. Hair unkempt, tie loose. I was darting around the office like he couldn't believe where he was. "Noah," he said, forcing a smile. "Wow, this place is cool." I didn't say anything, just stepped aside, barely. He walked in slow, taking it all in. The recycled furniture, the open sketches on the wall, the old blueprint, now framed again, this time with the city contract right beside it. Liam stopped in front of it and exhaled through his nose, still holding onto that. "Huh?" I crossed my arms. "What do you want?" He turned, hands in his pockets. "Look, things haven't exactly gone the way I thought. The Whitmore deal fell apart. Claire and we broke up. She called off the wedding 3 weeks before the date." I didn't flinch, just waited. "We lost our biggest investor 2 months ago," he went on. "Dad's been trying to hold it together, but the contracts are drying up. No one's calling back. And, the East Bank thing kind of tanked our reputation." I nodded slowly. "Tough year." He looked down, then up again. "I came to ask if maybe we could work together. Combine forces. We were always stronger as a team, right? You're the technical one. I'm the network guy. We could make it work." I let the silence stretch. Then I walked over to the desk, leaned on it, and looked him dead in the eye. "You inherited a title," I said, "not a legacy." Liam blinked like he'd been slapped. "I didn't need your help when I started," I added, "and I don't need it now. But we're family," he said, the words tasting foreign in his mouth. "You laughed with them when he gave me a blueprint," I said. "You watched them throw me out of my own life's work and said nothing. Now you want to combine forces." He had nothing to say, so he just stood there for a moment longer, eyes searching, and finally nodded. "Right," he muttered. "Okay, yeah, I get it." He turned and walked out. This time, I didn't have to. They showed up the following week, both of them. I knew they'd come eventually. I just didn't expect them to bring the full boardroom energy into my little office in Southeast Eugene. Mom arrived first, wearing one of those scarves she only pulls out when she's trying to seem soft. Her eyes were already red before she stepped through the door. Dad followed close behind, barking into his Bluetooth like he was still running a team of architects instead of scrambling to keep creditors off his back. I didn't get up. Mom crossed the room like she owned it and went straight for a hug. I shifted just enough that it turned into an awkward shoulder pat. "Oh, Noah," she said, her voice cracking. "It's so good to see you." Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, scanning the room like he was appraising the drywall. "I don't have a lot of time," he said, "so I'll be direct." Of course he would. "The firm is collapsing," he continued. "Liam's out of his depth. Half our vendors are gone, and we've had 3 breach of contract notices in the last month." He said it like I didn't already know, like I wasn't quietly watching it all unravel through the same industry channels they once told me I wasn't old enough to understand. "We need your help," Mom said, her voice trembling. "Please, Noah." "The family name." "The name?" I cut in, my tone flat. "You mean the one you erased me from?" Dad stepped forward. "Don't do this. We need to act now. You've got the contacts. The press is eating up your projects. If you step in and help steer this thing." "I'll help," I said before he could finish. They both froze. "But I want 51%. Dad's face twisted. "Excuse me." "Majority stake," I said, clear and calm. "You want me to save the company? Then I want control." "You're being ridiculous," he snapped. "This is a family business." "No," I said. "It was. Now it's a sinking ship. And you're not asking for family. You're asking for a bailout." Mom started crying. "Please, honey, it's not about control." "It always was," I said. "You gave Liam everything because of who he knew, not what he did. And when I left, none of you blinked. Now you want to come back like that never happened." Right on cue, the door burst open. Liam stormed in, hair a mess, shirt untucked, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Are you serious?" he shouted. "You're really trying to take the company from us?" "I'm offering to save it," I replied, not moving from my chair. "You're sabotaging us," he barked. "You've wanted this from day one. This is revenge." "No," I said. "This is consequence." He stepped toward me, fists clenched, but Dad stopped him with a hand. "Let's all take a breath," he said, his tone tightening. "We can work something out." I stood then, slowly, looked each of them in the eye. "No deals," I said. "Not unless it's signed. 51%. No backdoors. No titles without power. And not a single decision gets made without my signature." "You're punishing us," Mom whispered. "No," I said. "I'm protecting myself." Liam stared at me, jaw clenched. "You picked the wrong son," I told him. "And now you're out of time." Then I walked out. Let them feel the silence for once. 3 months later, Sanders Eco Living officially shut down. It wasn't a dramatic announcement or some flashy headline, just a quiet filing buried in the state registry and a locked door with a paper sign taped to the glass, closed until further notice. It started with the city pulling out of 2 major contracts. Then the lawsuits came, one for breach of contract, another for unfulfilled permits. Suppliers stopped answering calls. Their website went offline. The office, once filled with sleek desks and self-congratulatory awards, turned into an empty shell with unpaid electricity bills and scattered marketing brochures. Liam tried to salvage it. Briefly, he launched a podcast, rebranded the firm with a new logo, even tried hosting a webinar about next-gen sustainability. No one showed up. His name had become a punchline in industry circles, the guy who inherited a company and drove it into the ground in under 2 years. Dad retreated even faster. Last I heard, he was golfing 3 counties over, pretending to be semi-retired, while quietly liquidating assets to cover legal fees. I didn't reach out, didn't comment, didn't gloat, but I did buy the company at auction, quietly, through a third-party shell corporation. I sat in on the online bid, camera off, sipping coffee in a hoodie while the same firm that once pushed me out sold off what remained. I bought the name, the trademark, the designs, even the office building, though I had no intention of keeping it. 2 weeks later, I sent Liam a text, just a photo, the new headquarters sign, tin leaf design, formerly Sanders Eco Living. Beneath it, a single word etched in stainless steel, earned. He never replied, but the industry did. Emails poured in from old clients. "We always knew you were the talent. Let us know when you're accepting new bids." Even a write-up in Greenbuilt Weekly that called me the quiet innovator rebuilding sustainable design from the ground up. I didn't smile. Not exactly. But I framed that article too, not to show off, just to remind myself. I wasn't born into legacy. I built one from scratch. They gave me a blueprint and a smirk. I turned it into a building and a name that would outlast theirs. The knock this time was quiet, hesitant, like whoever was on the other side wasn't sure if they deserved to be there. It was a rainy Tuesday. I was in the drafting room, reviewing a community solar housing layout with Priya when the receptionist buzzed in. "There's a man asking to speak with you. Says it's urgent. Name's Liam." I didn't say anything right away. "Should I send him away?" she asked, voice careful. I thought for a moment. Then I said, "Let him in." A minute later, Liam stepped through the glass doors. I barely recognized him. He was thinner, paler, eyes sunken. No suit this time, just an old hoodie and jeans that looked like they'd lived in his car for a while. He stood in the center of the lobby like he wasn't sure whether to sit or leave. I walked out slowly, hands in my pockets. "Noah," he said, voice low. "I'm not here to fight. I didn't know where else to go." I nodded once, said nothing. "I lost everything," he went on. "After the company, Claire's dad blacklisted me. I couldn't even get hired as a consultant. I tried bartending for a while, but I was terrible at it, and I burned through my savings fast. I kept my face neutral." He looked around the office, the work tables, the models on the shelves, the laughter coming from a meeting room down the hall. "You really did it," he said. "Without us." I didn't respond. He rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. "I've been staying with a friend in Cottage Grove, but I've been trying to get clean, stay focused. I want to work again. And I came here because..." He swallowed. "Because I thought maybe you'd let me start over. Learn the right way. I don't expect forgiveness. I need a shot." There was a long silence. Then I pointed to the hallway behind the front desk. "Go through that door. Take a left. Drafting room's at the end." His head snapped up. "Wait, seriously? You'll start as an intern," I said. $10 an hour. You'll sweep, scan, organize. You'll earn your access, same as anyone else." He blinked, stunned. "You're serious? You wanted a legacy," I said quietly. "Here's the ground floor." His lip trembled, and he looked down. "Thank you," he whispered. "You didn't have to." I nodded once. "You're right. I didn't." As he turned and walked down the hall, a strange feeling settled in my chest. Not victory, not peace. Something else. Something like release. Maybe this was redemption, not just for him, but for me too. 6 months later, Liam was still here. He showed up early every morning, like clockwork. Quiet, focused. No more excuses, no side comments. He didn't ask for special treatment. He filed samples, learned CAD basics, double-checked order forms. And when he made mistakes, he owned them. He was finally becoming the kind of person I used to pretend he was. I kept my distance at first, watched from the background. I wasn't sure if I trusted him, not yet. But I could respect the effort. And honestly, that was more than I ever thought I'd feel again. We didn't talk much about the past. Maybe because there was too much of it. Maybe because we both knew the real apology was in the work. My team didn't ask questions either. They saw him the way I wished I could have been seen back then. Just a guy starting over. Not someone tied to the mess that came before. Somewhere in the middle of all that, my mother called. She lives in a small flat now, downtown, just off 13th Avenue. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms. Decent view. I bought the place quietly, through a trust, right after I finalized the acquisition. She doesn't know it was me. Thinks it's subsidized housing for seniors. Maybe it's better that way. We don't talk often. She sends a card on my birthday now, signed with just her name. Not love, not mom, but it's something. My father never reached out again. Not a letter, not a call, not even a lawsuit over the company name. I think, deep down, he knew he lost. And people like him don't apologize. They just disappear. And me? I'm here, still running Tin Leaf, still building. Our firm's grown. We're designing a new civic center in Medford. Broke ground on our first net zero apartment complex. We even hosted a panel at the West Coast Sustainable Design Conference. Sometimes, I walk through the halls of the office and just listen to the sound of laughter, pencils scratching, doors opening and closing. My name is on the door now, Noah Sanders, founder and director. Not because someone handed it to me, but because I earned it. And for the first time, that's enough.